you left.
The liberation of mutant kind has begun.
Welcome to the future.
Who's this clown?
Not clown, Joker.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Nobody tampers with the equipment except Tony Stark.
Good idea.
United, the Avengers are strong.
Hawkeye, hands off.
Fool! Have you forgotten my invincible magnetic power?
Not this time, Magneto.
My mutant brain senses danger.
Something unseen is slowly spreading its poison, edging tempers.
Think carefully before you do this.
You filthy criminals.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You unlock this door with the...
Here we are, episode 177 of Two Fat Guys Pulls. Welcome, one and all. I don't know why.
Share the stream, man. I can't see your face.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. Hold up, chat.
Looking at my big
Hold on,
screen.
let's go.
Hold
Hold on.
ugly face,
Just
nothing like it.
Jim. Okay, and then just hold with me, chat. Just hold with me. What do I do? It. I go share your screen. Then I click that, and I say go live. And then I open that, and then put you here, and then put you there, and then go boom. There it is. All right, cool. You all didn't see that. It was all magic on the other end. Anyway, welcome to episode 177 of Two Fat Guys Pull Us. It's a week. We can say that.
There were comic books.
They were comic books. Some of them were good, and some of them were meh. And then there were some that were just kind of, dude, what? And that's unfortunate because some of them are highly regarded on this show, and we're gonna talk about them. And then there was gods. So
What's up, Calvin?
What up, Calvin? Anyway, before we talk about our books, let's talk about our show's sponsor, which is Collected Comics and Games here in the DFW area. That's right. That is me and Nate's our comic book store where we buy our comics and everything else nerdy, which includes new comic books, back issues, omnibuses, trades, hardcovers, manga, action figures, models, plushies, trading cards, D&D stuff, books, statues, all kinds of good stuff. So if you're over in the area, yes, Calvin, I was going to talk about that, but let me get through this and then we'll talk about that. Anyway, Collecting Comics and Games is our LCS. So if you have the time and you are in the DFW area, we'd love for you to check them out. They've got 3 locations, one in Fort Worth, one in Irving, and one in Hearst. They're a great place. If you don't have the time or you are not in the area, you can always go to their website, staycollected.com, right here, and you can get all that stuff I talked about and more right here on the website. So, no excuse. Go check out Collected Comics and Games. They rock. Also, we'd like to talk about one of the owners, Brent, is starting his own publication called Crown Comics. And if you want to go check them out, go over to crowncomics.com where you can check out everything that they're doing over there. He's starting up this new publication with a bunch of his friends. So they're going to be pumping out some really neat and awesome comics here soon. If you want to catch up on their YouTube channel where we can get some more updates, you can check them out there. But we'd much thank you and would like for you to go check out crowncomics.com where they're going to be. It's going to be cool. I can tell you that right now. Brent's got the itch, and he's going to be pushing out some comics, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do here. I'm sure we'll have him on the show at some point, and he'll talk about some of the projects that he's got upcoming for Crown Comics, but some exciting stuff over there. So definitely go check it out if you get a chance, crowncomics.com. They are launching right now as we speak. Also, before that, if you're looking for another podcast to listen to, I would much implore you to check out Panel Boys. Our friend Mike over at Collected, who's one of the store managers, has a podcast with his friend where they talk about comics, movies, pop culture, all that good stuff. So they're over on Spotify and I believe on iTunes as well. But check out Panel Boys if you get a chance. They are doing some really cool stuff over there and would be much appreciated to help and support some of our friends within our little fatty community. It would be much appreciated. All right. Before we get to the comics, Calvin does say RIP, comic historian. Yes, the comic book, fandom, YouTube, the whole thing has lost a pretty big creator in comic historian. I saw the news earlier this week, and I know a lot of us probably, I'm sure we enjoyed his content and the stuff that he put out, and just the awareness that he pushed into the community of comics. So gotta definitely pour one out for comic historian there. We never met him. We never, I've never had any kind of conversation with him, but I've definitely seen a lot of his content and digested a lot of his content. So it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks, and I don't know. For me, it was kind of like extra kind of a punch to the gut because he was a couple of years older than us, and that's all.
I know,
like
man.
Accident, and I was just like,
it's very scary. I deal with anxiety a lot, and it's only gotten worse as I've gotten older. And so, like, the thought of that is it can stop you dead in your tracks sometimes during your day, and it just kind of sucks. So yeah, like you said, like to have somebody in our community who's just a few years older than us pass away, that's a big deal. But like I said, hopefully, everybody here in this community and everyone outside of it on YouTube can definitely wrap their arms around comic historian and his family and his friends, and just kind of show them support and love, and just hopefully they can get through it, and they can just process it, because that's all that that's all you can really do is just process and try to keep moving forward. So RIP for sure. All right, getting to the show. Like I said, we've got some books this week. Some of them good, some of them not so much. So we're just gonna head right into it. I will tell you, I added a book that I completely forgot about, and I do want to talk about it because I think it's starting to set the tone of where we're moving. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but when we get to that book, we'll talk about it. And of course, we're talking about X-Men books there. Sorry. I know we were. Right. But first up, you've got your crocodile book, right?
Yeah,
I can't see the title because
the 47 X-Men.
They didn't tell about. They didn't have, this is the title's not on there because when we put the book on the show, it's not there.
Issue number 2 of Crocodile Black.
Crocodile Black. I was about to say Black Crocodile. I was like, I don't think that's
right. Yeah. So this is the Philip Kennedy Johnson independent book that he's doing with Boom. And we're basically following a kid on the path of a mental break. I think by this issue we can confirm that he is clearly 100% lost it. Dang. In this issue, it basically wakes up with him he has a nightmare that wakes him up, and he is sleeping in the dead old man's bed. This of course is the old man that he was doing a grocery delivery to. He knocked on the door, no one answered, so he walked in to drop off the groceries. Dude was dead in his recliner, and so he stole his boots and went out on the town with him for a little bit, and then came back. And in this issue, he has fallen asleep in his bed, has started living there, has stopped taking his medicine, and his family can't find him. So yeah, he's kind of going on a bender. In the meanwhile, we actually get a little bit more of a glimpse into the detective team that is trying to figure out who committed the murder from the first issue, which was, of course, our kid in black boots. We can pretty damn well assume. And yeah, this was a really interesting issue of like background building of the characters that we've got here. Because from the first issue, it was really just the kid and his family. It's really what we focused on. And we don't see family at all in this one, which I was surprised. We really focused on this one detective. He actually reminds me of the detective similar to like the Six Fingers one hand run that we've got going right now. He's like on one of his very last cases. He's about to retire. Then all of a sudden, this thing comes across, and he like can't. It's like
can't drop it.
His lieutenant's like, this is only for you. You don't get to ride your desk to retirement. This is the one we need you to send you off on.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be interesting because it looks like we kind of have a detective kind of out for. He's ready to wrap it up, and I think that the juxtaposition between the two is very interesting. The kid actually ends up finding out that the dead guy was a veteran, has a Purple Heart and everything, finds a handgun in his drawer, and decides that he's going to listen to he ends up reading this old man's journal and like picking up lingo of being in Iraq. And so he thinks he's going to go to a bar and pretend like he is a vet. And when when the guy gets called out, or when he gets called out for lying, because he claims he's in some sort of platoon that was like one of the like most violent platoons, it's all the worst, I obviously I'm not gonna remember what it is. It says it in here, 11 Bravo, and the guy's like, no, there's no fucking way
they know 11 Bravo.
And the kid, it looks like he's just gonna leave in embarrassment, and in turn smashes a wooden chair over him and then stabs him with the stake portion of a broken off like back support.
Okay.
And right as he's about to drive it through the guy's eyeball, one of the bar patrons stops him and rushes him out, and it's like, oh man, you like fucked that guy up out of nowhere, like that takes some balls, like, hey, I got a guy that'll want to meet you. And it seems like he's gonna it looks like the cartel is getting him sucked in, so it's like
Jesus,
a lot. It's a lot.
Okay, all right.
But it's really good too. You can hear Philip Kennedy's style, his voice throughout this book really easily, and you definitely can tell that he's drawing upon his military background,
right?
Sort of, find inspiration. Also, in true Philip Kennedy Johnson fashion as well, he begins the comic with a song, at least like 2 verses of a song. Now, not a popular song, just a song he's made up.
Just a song,
and
right?
I think this marks every comic of his I've ever read that has a song in it, or lyrics, verses being sung that are all original of his. The dude must love writing songs. They're in every single one of his comics.
Must be his jam.
I'm all right with it.
Right on. All right, cool. All right, next up from Boom Studios, we have Lawful issue number 1. Like we said, we always pick up Boom number 1s just in case Netflix decides to say, hey, this is going to be a really cool TV show, and then like I said, your $3.99 book ends up being 60 or higher. But you got to give it a read, right? Yeah. This story was fine. It didn't move me in any one direction. I thought the idea was pretty interesting. Essentially, you've got a society where if you lie or cheat or do anything wrong, you essentially turn into a demi-human or some kind of demon or animal, whatever. You're marked in the sense of physical, like you have some kind of physical attribute that is quite noticeable in the sense that like you are not a good person, whether it's something minor in the sense of like just lying, or if you're stealing or murdering. And then you've got this kid who essentially wants to be in a position of high level or high regard, but in order to do that, you have to be, pretty pure, I guess you could say. Is like you're an abiding citizen. You don't break the rules. And at a fairly young age, he ends up getting kind of bullied into essentially breaking a rule, and he gets marked with some kind of deformity on his chest, but it's somewhat not noticeable if you kind of cover it.
He's able to hide it from everyone.
Right. And so when he grows up, his friend, who clearly here on the picture is turning into like some kind of like leopard lichen thing, they basically have gone their separate ways, yet they're still kind of acquaintances and kind of friends. And so he takes this exam to become this kind of like proctor. Essentially, he's applying for a position that judges these unlawful or unlaw abiding citizens, and essentially sends them out and casts them out. And so he kind of takes it too literal in the examinations that he does. At one point, they have to like walk on coals, and he just like does it, not knowing that there are cool spots, but he does it anyway. So it kind of shows his commitment to the rules, right? Yeah. Gets the job, and then when he gets his first day, his friend, who's here on the cover, basically is being outcast. And so, his job is essentially to either cast them out or put them in review. And he puts her in review, even knowing that she should be cast out, at least by the city's rules, right? and this is his first like committed dissent against the society. And so when he leaves the office, his little chest tumor thingy is like taking over his chest, and that's how the issue ends. I think the concept itself is there. Is it overstated? Maybe a little bit, but I mean, it was fine. But at the end of the day, the book for me didn't really. I didn't finish issue 1 and go like, well, I got to go pick up issue 2. I was like, it's okay. Like it. Maybe I'll pick up issue 2 because our summer might be a little bit lighter when we get to some of our other books here. But like, I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't blow me away like some other Boom books.
Yeah. So there were a lot of things about it that I think technically weren't really spot on. The dialogue was a little bit uninspiring. The art was fine, but like
it's fine.
I didn't have any like wow pages. I think that the plot though, like the story, is pretty original. Like it's pretty unique. And I think, but I think ultimately I'm in the same book. Like I never like got bored. I never go, oh my god, how many pages do I have left? That, but it's one of those books that like if I'm already looking at a 12 or 14 book day or week, there's no way I'm reading. So, but if it's on a slow week when this next issue comes out, then maybe we'll see. It's
possible. It's a possibility. But if you're looking for something new that, like you said, is a little bit more original, go check out Lawful for sure. All right, next we have Ain't No Grave issue number 2. I actually really enjoyed this issue. I think we got a little bit more movement. Because we established a shit ton in issue 1, like a ton, to the point where we both were like, man, like that's a lot. And in this one, I felt like we slowed down just to the right pace, where we could really get to understand this character and what her what her motives are, even though it's pretty clear. But I mean, we just get a better sense of it. I think Scotty Young and Corona did a great job of just showing how badass she is and just like how skillful she is with the pistol, and her instincts are just kind of on point. The only thing I will say about this book that if there was any fault in it, and I know for you it's probably the character design still, and I totally get that. It didn't bother me as much in this issue, and I think it's because we're in issue 2, and I just understand the standard of like, this is what this character is going to look like. I will say, outside of the cover, she wasn't as like her jacket wasn't as like outlandish as it was in issue 1. Like issue 1, it was like she had a parachute on. But I thought her tone in the book was great. I thought her like little standoff with the town folk at the beginning was really kick-ass. But like I said, the only thing for me about this book that was just like unfortunately is on the negative side, was the ending was incredibly abrupt, and just throwing us into this new situation when for a majority of the book we established her like kind of being on the run, and even hell coming after her now because of what she did and who she killed at the beginning of the book. Like to me, I was like, all right, I'm vibing. And then like we just get thrown into this like mistress carriage situation, and I'm like, wait, whoa, like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, and now we're on to the next quest, and I felt like we didn't turn in our paper, like we didn't turn in the quest to get our reward. You know what I mean? To pull a WoW reference. So for me, like that, if there's any negative to the book, it is we are jumping it feels like we're jumping from plot point to plot point incredibly fast. Whereas in a majority of issue 2, we established some real rhyme and rhythm to the story, which I liked. Even the when she's riding the Hell Goat, and like we get a call back to her and the husband saying like she can ride anything. Like she, you don't tell her she can't do anything, because she can. Like that was dope.
Right. And
then like when we get to the very end and we basically have 2 pages to get to the next plot point, I felt like it was a force hook. Like it was like, this is what issue 3 is going to be about. And I'm like, nah, that to me was done a little bit sloppy compared to the rest of the issue. So that's my only criticism of this one. I will be picking up issue 3 though. I like it.
Yeah, no, I will definitely be picking. I mean, I think I'm pretty much right there with everything. The jacket didn't really bother me in this. issue, which I was very, very, very thankful for.
Yeah.
We did get a couple of like John Romita Jr. faces in here. Like, all right, Corona, I know you're trying to do Transformers too, but come on, man. Some of those box faces.
But I think one thing I'll say is, I think Corona, like, if I didn't know Corona was on the book, like, his artwork in this sense is giving off a very Scotty Young vibe. I mean, it's not to the T Scotty Young, but I feel like he's doing a very good impression for the most part. And I'll go ahead and say it, like, he's on Transformers with Daniel Warren Johnson, and I think we found a guy that, like, does his homework and tries to, like, emulate whoever's style. Like, if it happens that the writer is an actual artist, he's gonna do his hard enough job to, like, fit his art style, which I find very impressive. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I agree too. I'm looking at it while you say, like,
yeah.
I think it would be interesting to kind of see, like, instead of like I know it's obviously happening, but like when we do the throwbacks or like the flashbacks, that Scotty Young did the art, and then
that'd be dope. That'd be
dope.
dope.
I cannot remember the last time Scotty Young has done an interior, like an actual like interiors of a book, not like a cover.
Was it his Fairylands book that he came out with, or did somebody else do that one? There was like a fairy book, like yeah. I feel like he did the interiors on that. Yeah, but
this is still a great series. Definitely continuing.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. All right, next up we have The Deviant, issue number 6 from Tiny Onion. Yep.
That's
Not a surprise.
Yeah, not a surprise, and it shouldn't be a surprise. And so the first little bit of this book, I was like, okay, we're doing some things, but I wasn't quite sure where, like, what was going to be the oomph factor, what was going to be the thing that just makes this go over the top. And it was this detective that is doing the investigation against Michael and him possibly being this Christmas killer, copycat killer. The first half of the book is basically the mother and father, Michael's mother and father, are meeting with a lawyer at Michael and his partner's house. I can't remember his partner right now, but the partner is like clearly like, how are y'all, like, the way that they're speaking is like, well, if he did do it, then we need it. He's like, what the fuck do you mean if he did? Like, this is your child. Like, what do you mean if he did it? Like, you actually think that he's that disturbed? And his dad makes a remark like, well, he's living with a man, or, like, what else am I supposed to think?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me. And the mom's like trying to be like supportive, but they're being pretty like firm. Like, we're making decisions for him, and you're not allowed to be involved, which is crazy for the person that's been living with your son for 8 years, been together in a relationship for 10 years. He hadn't even spoken to his parents in months, and they're like, "Nah, you're out of here." So he ends up meeting a friend at the bar, the friend that we've met in the story before. And I think this is the third time we've seen him, and each time he's like laid down like a pretty big truth bomb. And so his boyfriend is sitting there, and it's just like, I can't believe they think this. Like, I can't believe they don't trust me. Like, I got to figure out what to do. And his friend is like, like, right now this is where you need to be. But pretty soon you're going to need to start thinking about what to do if there's evidence that this was him.
No shit.
And remember, just to remind everyone, if you don't remember, they found the bloody Santa Claus suit in his closet. So that's why he's under arrest. Like, there's not like super circumstantial. It seems pretty. I mean, that is a little circumstantial, but it's also pretty big evidence. So that's kind of the first part of the book. At one point, and the way it kind of transitions too. So the boyfriend is sitting talking to this friend, and all of a sudden he sees the detective sitting at the other end of the bar. And this detective's like not a normal FBI detective. Like, he's a blonde black man with like a very tight, super nice black suit with neon green painted nails, and he's like chain smoking like a jewel vape.
Okay.
And he's just sitting at the bar, and his boyfriend approaches him and is like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, there's a man out there that's killing these children and killing these people, and
Right.
you're just sitting on your ass. You're not even trying to feed him. And he's like, well, maybe I already found him. And the guy's like, what? Like, you didn't. And so what am I supposed to do now? Like, am I supposed to wait for Batman to find and like save Michael because you're too stupid to do your job? And the guy's like, well, see you later.
Maybe.
And just like gets up and walks away. But then the rest of the story is told through the eyes of FBI agent. And we first see him interact the man with the big scar on his face. He's the guy that originally the gay man from the 70s who was also blamed for those killings and beat him within an inch of his life. He's been brought in for questioning. The FBI guy's talking to him, and that guy is basically like, aren't you sort of like, he uses the F slur, and it's like, aren't you too gay to be on the FBI? Like, he's like, what are you doing looking like this? Like, intimidate people or something. And you know, the FBI agent just takes it in turn, and then he goes and talks to his sergeant who wants to who's ready to press charges. And we start to see like the agent's not ready. He's like, I don't think so. He's like, the gay issue keeps getting brought up. Like, it keeps like even his sergeant's like, he's a weird gay kid who reads comic books as an adult. Like, it's obviously him.
God dang it.
And so like Tinian's like kind of but then it snaps back to Michael's boyfriend, and he's got the Charlie from It's Always Sunny, like looking at the wall with all the spreadsheets,
Right.
and stuff. And he's got that in his room, and he's like, I'm fine, I'm good to figure this out, and I'm gonna do what it takes. And the final page is him in the jail, having requested to go see the original blamed murderer and to talk to him about their interaction, because obviously
Dun dun.
So this issue was like a really big case study for why, in one way. So this series is so good because the horror horrific in a way that you kind of don't expect, and then in the other way is like a character, like a study of like how to do characters. Like it's you know, like a comics 101 on just like just pretty much with just dialogue. There's almost no like thought bubbles. I mean, there are no thought bubbles. There are no like non-spoken descriptions of what you're seeing. It is just dialogue, and you feel like you.
Right. So Tinian's letting the artist convey what he sends him on his notes, and it's just dialogue. I like that. Like, we've had this discussion before, and I had this discussion with my dad this past Wednesday when he went to the shop with me, and we talked about that. And he's like, well, maybe it's like an artist interpretation. I was like, no, I feel like, I mean, you could be right. It could be the case. But to me, when I see that kind of stuff, 9 times out of 10, I feel like it's the writer isn't confident in what he's written, so he adds that part in for almost as a word count. And like, to me, again, it may not be the case 100% of the time, but most of the time when I read it, it just feels like an excuse because the writer just doesn't feel confident, or at least my interpretation is that they don't feel confident in what they put on the page. And that might be even a lack of confidence in the artist. And to me, that's just a shame. Like, you're not letting your artist like stretch their legs.
Right.
And that kind of sucks. I could be wrong. I could be way out of bounds on that, but that's just how I feel about it. So
well, that's certainly not happening here, and that's great.
No,
Hickson
that's
is
awesome.
Fantastic of keeping a really consistent, ominous tone, and like for each character it has, not just overall.
Yeah. Stefan, I didn't see your chat, but happy Father's Day. Thank you so much. And if any of y'all are papas, happy Papa's Days too. All right, next up we have Napalm Lullaby, issue number 4 from Rick Remender, and shit hit the fan in this book. You know, it is exactly what we thought it was, but we actually did get more explanation to the lore too of what we're dealing with in this book, which is these religious constructs and of society that are just taking control and not letting anyone be a free thinker. And then you've got our two twins here who are quite the opposite. And we get a hint of like they could have been part of the society at one point. Maybe a little bit of an experimentation here. We don't know. You know, Remender again is just letting out little crumbs on like what's actually happening in this book. But I thought the superhero / villain of the book, I thought she was terrifying. Especially when she was doing the Nappa like energy blast out of the mouth, like just like shooting out a Super Saiyan, a Kamikami blast out of her mouth was pretty cool. And then when one of our twins, the guy, the brother, literally like sliced her up from one direction to the other, and then she just like did surgery on herself and like patched herself together. I was like, God damn, this is some crazy shit. This book's great, man. Again, like there are books that intentionally keep you in the dark, but they're done in such a way that you feel turned off by the book. And then there are books like this, which are keeping you in the dark intentionally, but they're done so well that you're wanting to, like, I got to pick up issue 5 because what are we going to find out next? And I feel like it's because it's done in a non-intentional way, if that makes any sense. Like, it's almost as if, like, when you do it intentionally, it's a turnoff. But when you do it in such a cryptic and an unintentional way, it's a turn on. Like you got to keep going. You got to get the next one to find out what happens. But it's not in your face, right? Like at the end of the book, we're not like, and tune in next time to find out. You're like, no, it's not that. Like there's just these little subtle hints of what we're dealing with that entice you to want to read more. And I think that's the beauty of this book. And then the artwork I think is fantastic. I'm not going to say it's my pick of the week, but it's really fucking close because I thought this book was great.
The only thing that I didn't like about this book that was a little bit different and more leaned on here was I kept racking my brain trying to think of what it's called, but like the thing we were doing this in Wonder Woman a lot, where someone is speaking to someone else. And it's like being interjected with what's happening. And so by the time you read the dialogue and you get back to what inner thoughts were, you don't remember where you were at. Donny Cates is notorious for it. And it's one of my least favorite writing styles. And everyone does it at some point. It's a very comic book thing. But have
there's
like an ongoing narrative in the back and then it getting interrupted by action and dialogue, and then to go back to that without it making any sense to what you were just seeing is very disorienting.
I think
there's this issue I had to keep going back.
There's a way where you can do it and it makes sense, and when that happens, that's like the sweet spot. Yep. And I get exactly what you're saying. I personally, just to go back to your Donny Cates thing, I haven't read anything from Cates where that's been distracting for me. But there have been other, like the Wonder Woman thing, 100%. It's just like, and that's flow, right? Like that's the flow of the comic. And I know there's an actual term for it, like comic theory of like how comic books are written. But yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. Like that can kill a book really fast. Like
it certainly did not kill this book at all. I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really kept it from that 4.5.
Yeah. Well, Remender's just killing it, and I think it's pretty obvious that he was really focused on this rather than X-Force. I'm just gonna say that right now. All right, next up, Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona's Transformers issue number 9. I know everyone's expecting me to hit Patois. Look, I'm not going to be apologetic to it. This issue was a mess. This issue was a hot mess. And the reason why it was a hot mess is because we are speeding. We are light speeding through concepts and storylines and setting up new concepts so fast that it's making a mess of the book. If we talk about the artwork was great. Again, you've got Jorge Corona doing a fantastic job of making it incredibly seamless that you would never know unless you were just so dialed in that this isn't Daniel Warren Johnson's work. Like they are on the same page when it comes to art and coloring. Like the whole thing is great. But as for what we've established in this book, we went from 0 to 60 so fast that by the time you finish reading the book, you're dealing with probably, I'd say, 6 different concepts in this, 6 different storylines, 6 different concepts where, like, I don't understand, like, I don't know what's important. Does that make sense? Like, it feels like every single one of them is important, and each one of these issues that we're dealing in the book should be its own issue. And it pains me to say this because I love this book. I love Transformers. But there was just so much going on in the book that when it ended, I was like, what did I just read? Like, why are we going so fast? Like, to me, that says, like, I'm a little concerned that Daniel Warren Johnson's going like, I gotta get off this book. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, that's what it reads to me.
Can I ask a specific,
sure,
for clarification in a specific part? If you go to the page where Optimus Prime is getting suplexed.
Okay.
So he's getting suplexed, right? And the next page says Cybertron. And it shows our pink girl.
Alita, I think her name is.
Yeah, and she's like running with a dude.
Yep.
That's from the past, right? Like, we've already been told this, right?
No. So that's happening concurrent to what we're dealing with. So.
And then they just go through a portal and
so the Decepticons at the last issue, Soundwave gets a hold of Shockwave, and they set up a portal.
They sound and look exactly.
No, they don't. So Soundwave sounds like a monotone. Like, I'll send you a clip.
I don't mean their voices. I mean their names.
Oh, that's 100. That's
their names for someone who can't even keep track.
That's pure.
Exactly.
That's pure 80s, bro. That's pure 80s. Soundwave, Shockwave. Okay.
I guess let me. I don't. It's fine. We don't need that.
Okay. Yeah.
The point that I'm trying to make is in the first couple issues, I would say even first 5 issues, we did a really good job. They did a really good job of making this a non-Transformers reader's book. It did not matter. I don't care about Transformers. This book demands that I be a Transformers informed individual beyond.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Beyond this comic, and it was frustrating because
no, I get that.
You know, in some way I was spoiled, right? Like, they did such a good job of nothing about Transformers, but in this I was just like, I needed to be a Transformers informed person besides this comic.
Even for also, me,
who's Beachcomber?
I don't, and that's what I was about to say. Is like, even for me, who like is a very big like Transformer nut, I have no idea who that guy is.
Okay.
And I will say this, like you said before, with Alita and whoever she's carrying on her shoulder, I would assume it's some kind of Prime. Before this issue, I even think I thought like, oh, this is like a past thing, right? And like they established fairly quickly in this book, like, no, this is happening alongside. They escape Cybertron through this portal that the Decepticons showed, like, brought together. And then she does, I mean, she did the right thing, right? Like, oh no, the boulder's coming after me. Move 2 feet to the left, right? Like, oh no, there's a portal where the bad guys are coming from. Blow up the portal. Like, that was cool. And I will say, the conflict between Prime and Shockwave and the Autobots, that was the meat of this book. That just should have been this book. Nothing with Spike, nothing with the girl who's with the other Autobots and them, you know, recruiting the government or the US, you know, the military. I think all those other subplots, all, you know, the Spike part and her, that could have been the next issue. The fight between Optimus and Shockwave and the rest of the Decepticons, Cliff Jumper getting left behind and about to be tortured, all of that would have been this issue. That should have been just this issue, I believe. Yeah, all right over there? Just kind of get a little choppy.
Yeah, it keeps shutting off on its own.
Oh no. But so I agree with you, and unfortunately, like that is going to hinder. This book isn't going anywhere. I will say that. Like, I'm not losing it. I'm gonna go to just my cam until you fix it. So, you know, this issue to me is not. That's not gonna hold me back. I'm not gonna go, you know what? I'm out of Transformers. No, I'm still in. But the movement in this book, the flow of the book definitely took a hard shot in this issue, and I totally agree with you. The past issues, you didn't necessarily need to be a Transformer fan or know much about Transformers to enjoy the book. This one, it was like hardcore, like even for me, you need to know who your Transformers are. Like, right. Especially with the one at the end, like I have no fucking clue who that is. I also like, I don't know much about the shuttle train one, the one that's kidnapped Spike, but I never got the sense that he was this like honorable, and I put that in quotations, warrior who's just doing his orders. Like I rarely saw him. I mean, in the movie, he literally is a transport. Like he never even transforms. He's a train at one point, then he's the spaceship. That's it. And then like you never see him again. So we never really got any personality. You never even got any sense that he was a badass. Like when he showed up in the last issue, he was fucking pissed. He's like, "Where's Megatron?" You know, I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like dude's got an axe to grind. But in this one, it's more like, I'm just doing my work, kid. Like, I like you. And I'm like, wait, that's not a Decepticon thing. Like, I don't know. So this issue definitely, I don't know if it was, I don't know if DWJ was like pressed for time and he needed to put in so much stuff because like we're moving so fast, or if it was just like, you know what, I just got to get it. I don't know. But this issue for me, like, if it had just been the body, which was the battle between Shockwave and Optimus, which I think was great because there was like these callbacks like, hey, I kicked your ass before, I can do it again, and like, you know, good banter, good heel hero shit, right? I think that could have been the body of this issue, and it would have gotten a much higher grade. But to add everything else in and all these other plot devices, and then making Spike like even more important, which I'm not saying he shouldn't be. Yeah. Just do it in the next issue, right? We don't like, we're like, unless we're pressed for time, are we not, you know, is this book about to end? Because that's how it felt. It's like, oh shit, we got to cram all this stuff in because we only got 4 more issues. And if that's the case, then I'm scared because that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, the creative team's too good. It was one fluke. It's no big deal. They'll be
100%. They'll have them. They have them for sure. All right, let's jump over to Marvel. We're going to kick it off with the Avengers issue number 15 from McKay, the mastermind currently at over at Marvel, who's just got everything figured out for some reason, and I love it. Mm-hmm.
That's Chip's pick of the week.
This is my pick of the week. I had a lot of fun with this book. And Blood Hunt was great. Blood Hunt this week was really good, but man, Avengers just did it for me, man. Like the character dynamic, the flow of the book, the way McKay wrote these characters, you would think that this group, this new Avengers group, has been together for a minute. Like just their banter, their teamwork, sometimes their lack of teamwork. Okay, again, McKay. Putting a character in a book, which I don't give 2 shits about, let alone 2 characters. I know Hercules is a badass, and I've never not said like I would not read a book. Like he's a cool guy. Hawkeye and Hazmat. What the fuck?
Hazmat?
I've never
all the great things she's been in with Carol.
I get that, but this is different. Like I'm just saying like. I've never really like Hazmat's fine. I've always looked at her and been like, okay, cool, it's Hazmat. Like she's OP.
The fact that you care more for Quicksilver than Hazmat.
No. I didn't say Quicksilver. I never said Quicksilver.
You just said the 2 worst that you didn't care about at all. And
right. I mean, I just forgot that Quicksilver was in this book. I'm just saying
he's the worst.
Okay. Anyway, what I'm saying is, fine, he's the worst. He's written really well in this book. And I think that's all to McKay.
Oh, well, they're all written well.
That's what I'm saying. And like, I'm just saying like,
I mean,
I know he's still a dick. Like he even says it in this book. He's like, I just run fast. Like, okay, I get it, bro. Like, but to me, I see what you're saying with Hazmat in the Carol's books, but I just don't feel like she had that much weight in the book. She was just a supporting character, and that's fine. And when they needed a nuclear blast, bring in her, that's okay. But like, I felt like she had a lot more character in this book. Like she just really blossomed, and I love that. And I loved it for Hawkeye. What's her name? What's her actual name for Hawkeye?
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop. Dude, like when she gives the speech, like I was like, this is great. This is awesome. You know, now I will say, is there a parallel between her giving a speech and then in Blood Hunt, Captain America, Falcon giving a speech? A little bit. And I'm okay with that. It's fine. But I felt like her speech was a lot better than Captain America in Blood Hunt. I felt like Blood Hunt's, it felt almost too generic. Whereas with her, like, I don't know, it just felt like this big moment. And I loved it because it wasn't Cap. It wasn't Steve Rogers giving it. It was her. And that was the whole point, right? I don't know. I liked it. I think vampire Nazis, that is just, it's so cliche, but I fucking love it. And this villain who has been, no, Calvin, I'm not saying I didn't care about her. I think it's just an example of McKay being such a strong writer that he can write anyone and you go like, damn, like, fuck yeah, you know? And I just haven't been exposed to her storylines. I'm just still new. I'm still green. And when she did show up, it was like, oh, there she is. And then she went away. Whereas in here, I'm like, hell yeah, man. She's on the Avengers. Like, fuck yeah, bro. And this has got me just, even though it's not McKay, like this is getting me hyped for Steve Orlando's Avengers Assemble book. Like it's got me super stoked.
Someone I trust to take on the.
Yeah, dude. But anyway, I thought the book was great. I thought Via did a great job on the artwork. And Hercules, bro, like he had some great moments in this book. It definitely showed, like it, to me, again, it's not official, but it just feels like McKay is in the driver's seat when it comes to Marvel. And that's saying a lot when you got Hickman kicking ass over with Amazing Spider-Man and the Ultimates. I don't know. I just liked the book. It when I got to it and I started reading it, I just had a great time. I had a great time with this book.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep. All right, let's keep going. All right, Blood Hunt issue number 3. Great book. I think again McKay is really cooking with this concept. But the real star of this issue is Pepe Larraz. Like the dude is chef. Yes, chef. Like he is just killing it. His artwork is just phenomenal. And even though I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the lack of what am I trying to say here? The lack of explanation to Miles being a vampire, it didn't really bother me. Because it's essentially implied that he was turned before this ever started. Like essentially Blade got to him before the event started and he was a sleeper cell agent. Basically he's been a vampire sleeper agent. We don't know for how long, but that's the case. And I wasn't like, when it didn't get revealed, I was like, okay, like this isn't that important. Like the important bomb here is that Blade's daughter is the key to defeating Blade. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty big plot device. And the fact that she's going to be the one that has to do it. And you've got Dracula being basically unapologetic about it. Once he's forced into a corner of the explanation, he's like, look, you're the one that's going to do it. And she's like, the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, I liked that. I liked the mystery that we got with Hunter's Moon and Tigra saying we need another person to go do X, and we don't know who it is, even though we get a silhouette. I'm like, oh shit, planting these little seeds, you know? So I liked it. I think this is a perfect middle point book. But there is a slight, like, if how do I say this? Because it's issue 3, it's not that big of a deal. But the momentum felt a little, like I felt like we took our foot off the gas just a little bit, and it felt unnecessary. That's what I'll say. That's my only criticism.
Yeah, it didn't feel, even though the temple fell down in New York City and stuff like that, it didn't really feel like the stakes were raised.
Because we don't know what that is.
Next issue, but
yeah,
yeah, we don't know what that is. We don't know the state of all the baddies. Like, what's going on? Like, who else is? I don't know. There's a lot in there. It's a small nitpick, but it's still like,
yeah.
It's not been. It didn't create the perfect flow. Just a
Not based off of the other two issues, which were very like on point, borderline, like could not go wrong. John coming in with the super chat. He says, "Hey, I can't make the show tonight. Just want to say Happy Father's Day. Blood Hunt and Transformers was awesome." Right on, John. Right on.
Awesome.
Appreciate you. Thank you again for being a member, and thank you again for the super chat. We much appreciate you, John. I hope you had a great Father's Day, and looking forward to see you this rest next week. I don't know what I'm saying. We'll see you next week. All right. Oh God. Okay. I won't.
Quick.
It will be. It will be. It will be. But I just need to. I got to get this off my chest. So I talked to Ron at the shop yesterday because I had to go over there and pick up some stuff, and we talked about gods. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say is going to be incredibly borrowed from Comic Book Herald because he's much more articulate in his explanation of this book, and he sums up everything that I feel about this book, which is Jonathan Hickman wrote an independent book for Marvel. And that independent book is a less inviting and less entertaining decorum. That's what this book is. So this book was marketed as the next big step in the changing of cosmic shit in Marvel, in the Marvel universe. And that Jonathan Hickman was going to be the one to do that. And we actually did get that, technically, in issue 1. In issue 1, the stakes were laid. The heroes averted the cosmic disaster in the whatever event that was at the end at that book where we, this guy was going to do an Oblivion event and he was going to blow up the universe, and Win and Doctor Strange stopped him, put him in the box. That's the event. That's what that was. Okay. The rest of Gods is essentially a love story between two characters and their journey through time and space and the cosmos. That's this book. That's it. It didn't do anything. There wasn't any significance in the book, and the only reason why this book was at all hyped was because Jonathan Hickman was on it, and Marvel was like, we need to sell fucking copies of this book, so we're gonna hype it up. But when you read it, it's about Win and his relationship with his wife, who's on the other side of these two butting head forces that dictate the cosmos. That's this book in a nutshell. It is not something that's changing the game, or at least not yet. And we've been lied to. It didn't, like, the ending of this book, you're going, what, why? Essentially, Win travels back in time, and in time and in front of time, to see his life. So he sees where it started, where he becomes the avatar of the whatever, I don't even remember what it's called, all the way into the future, which ends up him dying and being encapsulated in chunks in front of the in-betweener. And so the book ends with him watching himself get married to the chick that's the science avatar. Essentially he should have written this book as an independent book, and it would have been 10 times better, because the expectation was that this was going to be game changing for the cosmic universe within Marvel, and we got a bunch of characters that we don't know anything about, and that's it.
Wow.
That's this book.
Incredibly disappointing.
Well, and I mean, Nate, like I think you should read it, because I'm sure
There's
you'll.
No way.
Well, no. I'm sure you'll. At some point, there will be a day where you're like, you know what? Because you have all the issues, you can just read it.
I do not have all the
Well,
issues.
you know what I'm
stopped
saying.
Picking it up.
At some point, you may decide you're on Marvel, the Marvel app, and you decide to read it. And if you read it, I'm sure if you read it all the way through in one sitting, or kind of like in chunks, maybe it makes more sense. But in Joe's saying right here, I had to reread all 8 for it to hit. It really is great if you read it all at once. I think as a love story, as a story of Win and this new character and his wife and them, traveling through this storyline, it probably works out great. But as for something that was marketed as the Hawksbox of Marvel comic or Marvel Cosmos comics, it ain't it. I'm sorry. And Joe, I could be wrong. I could be stomping on it and you're like, nah, bro, you're missing it. And maybe I am. And maybe one day I'll go back and reread it. But for me, because every issue came out every month, I couldn't remember what the fuck was going on to the point where it just didn't matter to me. And I just can't imagine Hickman's books being like that when you read them. I never had that sense when I read his X-Men books. And I never had that sense when I was reading Decorum. Every month that book came out, I was like, yep, I exactly remember what's going on here. And in this book, it's like you're just establishing new things so much. Like as a new story, it's fine. It's actually kind of fun. But when the expectation is that whatever happens is in this book is going to change how we perceive Marvel Comics, is just a straight up lie. That's all I'm saying. I think the best thing about this is not the main story, but the world building and the new characters. 100%. I think you're dead right on that, Joe. I think you're 100% right. It's just my expectation for the book. I was sold a bill of goods, and that's not it. If I was sold a bill of goods that what you just said is about this book, I'd probably have a different opinion on it. But I just feel cheated, even though there are good character moments in here. There are good character building. Like Win is an interesting character, but I don't know who he is. Even after reading this book, I still don't know why. Oh, this is the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on. What my sense of this book is, here are these new characters that do all the things behind the scenes, and technically they don't matter. What was that?
I don't know.
I think you do, but it's okay.
I'll muzzle it. Don't worry.
What was I gonna say? Damn it. Okay, yeah. I think the fuck. Where was I? Okay, you've got these new characters, right? We're being told they're important, and they are. And they're basically doing all these things in the background that have game-changing effects, but you'll never see them because they're dealing with concepts and ideas that don't technically shape anything that deal with our main characters, because they're so behind the scenes, you'll never notice that they happened. That's God's, right? And then in between that, the main story, the actual thing that matters, is these two characters who are deeply in love, and they can't be in love because of the two sides that they're on. That's what this book is really about. And if you just market it that way, like Dimitri and how like his little side story, I was like, God damn, it was awesome. But what does it have to do with Marvel Comics? Nothing. I'll shut up now. If they bring back the new side, if Marvel, I will most definitely wait for a trade. But I'm interested in it though. I think I'm right there with you, Joe. Like I think I'd read it on the app. I wouldn't buy it. I would just do it. I'd read it on the app. So go check out Comic Book Herald's discussion on this book. I butchered it, but he does a great job of the explanation of it. Like he kills it. So. All right, Incredible Hulk, issue number 13 from Philip Kennedy Johnson and Nick Klein. This is good. This is good. Weird.
This is the best
weird
art.
Oh, yes.
That Marvel has released in months.
In months, yeah. Well, he's back.
He's back, and he was like, "Hey, I had some stuff and I'm putting it in every page. I hope you want to throw up."
Yeah.
Actually, that's exactly what I wanted when I.
The guy who's giving them the explanation of where they are and what they need to do, while his knees and arm, like basically his joints are being like nibbled on until he falls apart. I was like, God damn, what are you? Yeah, dude. There was some fucked up. There was some berserk level shit going on in this book, like hardcore. So it just says I skipped out on gods, but might grab the trade for it. I think that's probably the way to go. Consuming it month to month is just not the way to do it. Like it just isn't. Joe, also I think Hickman would be a great job on Doctor Strange ongoing. He knows how to convince you, convince Cap. I'm sorry, how to convince you. Am I reading that right?
How to convince you things that is wild.
Oh, got you. Doctor Strange needs that. Love McKay, but he does too easy of a read for Doctor Strange. Yeah, I could see that. I guess with Hickman, and I didn't really intend this to happen, but I think with Hickman, like you just have to like let him do what he wants to do, and when he says he's done, he's done. That's it. Like don't beat the dead horse. If he feels like it's time to end it, listen to him. Let him end it and move on. Don't keep going. Anyway, Incredible Hulk. I thought it was great. I know we're winding down to the end of this series, which is stinky. Yeah, but definitely doing some big things in this book. To the point where I thought at the end, like, again, I know we're trying to be cryptic and like set up these new things. I didn't quite like the spider dude. Yeah, I was kind of like, okay, like that to me. That if there was one part of this issue, I was like, okay, like it just was like, here's this cool concept, gun. I'm like, okay.
Well, cool. I mean, yeah, I think this is probably. I can't imagine how much we're losing because this is being cut.
Right. That's I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it seems frustrating because he seems like a really awesome that's being created here, and it looks like that was it. We got like 4 pages of it.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly frustrating.
Well, the momentum and like the grandioseness of the concept that they're trying to establish with this like righteous mother of monsters thing, like I think we're about to experience that with She-Hulk. It's ending in August and it doesn't look like it's coming back. So like whatever like build up we wanted with She-Hulk and Jack of Hearts, like it's gonna feel rushed, and I feel like we're about to get that with like it feels like the Hulks right now are just getting screwed over. So anyway, hope you all are doing great. I'll have to watch the show on the rematch. Nope, Patty, we're just glad you just came in and said hi. We love it. Joe, I'm loving Hulk, but can't help that this is the worst run for PKJ. The Klein runs this issue's because Klein runs this. Is it ruins or runs this issue because when Klein is off the story, it's weak. I kind of agree with that. I felt like the last arc, like, can you imagine? I know you don't agree, but can you imagine Nick Klein on the last arc with the crazy old like woman, that great old lady that's like, bleh, can you imagine like this artwork on that book?
Yeah, I see what you're saying for sure.
Just saying,
it would have been better.
I think we had that discussion last time when we had the book. I think we spiraled on that.
Yeah. All
right, I'll be quick on this. This was not originally on New Comic Book Day, but I saw it and I was like, well, shit, this is the first technical book of the post-Krakoan era. We have X-Men Era of Apocalypse. Now, he does say that he's looking for an heir at the end of issue 35, and I did not realize that is happening right meow this week. It definitely... shit. As a characterization of Apocalypse, it further dives into this idea that this is not the same Apocalypse we were dealing with during the Krakoan Age. Like, it's incredibly obvious that Marvel's like, give us back our Apocalypse. Give us back the Apocalypse of old. That being said, you can see Fox like, but no, like I still want him to have some of the semblance of like kind of leadership and knowledge. And so there's a mixture of original Apocalypse and this one that's over on Araco, basically saying like, I'm going to basically, this form of mutants on Mars is ready for my style of leadership. So once y'all figure it out on Earth, you can come play with me. That's kind of what you kind of get here. But he is establishing a new heir to his ideology. And there are some mutants that are invited that make sense. And there are some mutants in there that are like, why are you here? Like what's his name? Doug, the guy that can, he's there, and you're like, but the thing is, all the mutants that were picked were handpicked by Apocalypse, so like they're there for a reason. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I think if there was one negative to the book, it is that there are just these subtle hints of like, bring me back to supervillain Apocalypse. And it feels like whoever's writing him is going like, okay, I see what you want to do there, but I really think we should stick with this concept of him being this thing that is not the same. He's not your same old Apocalypse. So I'm gonna see it through. I'm gonna read it. I enjoyed it. I didn't read it and go like, well, this was a waste of money. Like I had fun with it, because there is this connectivity of like, okay, what do we do now? And Apocalypse is going, okay, you can do this. Like, y'all are all floating and trying to figure out like what you want to do, and I'm gonna show you what you need to do next. And to me, I like that because we don't know we just don't know what direction we're going in. We know that Jed McKay is going to be the end all be all of what direction we're going in, and so I have to assume that Fox and McKay are talking. So we'll see. Silly goose time. That's what this book is. Good.
Oh no, actually, I saw Joe's question, which is that he thinks Richter will be the new heir. Who do you think? I obviously can't read it, but
I think that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of alluded to in the book. He's the first approached by Apocalypse to join this trial amongst all these X-Men. And he's been training. Like they show him, like it has to be him. Like I just can't see. Now that being said,
Twitter is convinced that it's Angel.
It could be, and if it was, I'd be cool with it because when he gets approached by Apocalypse doesn't tell him, "Hey, you're part of the trials." Apocalypse is like, "I need you to see over this. I need you to watch this happen." And Archangel's like, "Fuck you. You tormented me. I don't want anyone to be your heir. I don't want to see another Apocalypse ever." And I'm like, "Oh shit." Cuz like when he shows up, he's got, his regular angel wings, and when Apocalypse like summons him, he goes full Super Saiyan and his Archangel outfit comes on, his wings turn into blades, and he's just like, ah, like he's pissed. And like if it's Archangel, down, right? And like the fact that like Cable's in it too, and Cable, everyone's like, why are you here? And he's like, you really think I'm gonna let the guy who's ruined my future win? And you're like, oh, good point. Like that was pretty cool. So I enjoyed it. Like it wasn't like, oh shit, this is the first book out of the X-Men after the Krakoan era, but it was fun. Like I'm if anything, I'm just kind of pissed at myself that I forgot or didn't even look at solicitation, so I need to do a better job at it. And it'll wrap up quickly. It's a bi-weekly, 100%. It'll be over pretty quick. I think the obvious pick, but remember Marvel did with the Phoenix Echo, who guessed. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. All right.
Why do you hate Echo so much?
It's not that I don't like Echo. I just like the whole Phoenix arc from Jason Aaron was pointless. Like it was stupid. It was. Ultimate X-Men issue number 4. I liked it. I'm still here. I love that Peach is just doing her own thing and she doesn't give a fuck about what anybody else is doing in the Ultimate Universe, and I think that's great. And I think what'll be even better is when there's this. I just gotta hope, or not hope. I think there's gonna be this moment where all these books are gonna converge, right? And these characters are gonna meet. And I pray to God and hope that when the Ultimate X-Men of Peach Momoko mash up with Hickman and everybody else's books, that they're still drawn in this same art style against everybody else's. Like they pop in and they're like, what the fuck? And you're like, yep, we're the X-Men. Like, I think that's gonna. I just hope that happens. I don't know if it's going to. Also, I think Pepe Larraz did a cover for this issue, and I'm like, God damn it! Like, why'd you got to do that? Because I love Peach's designs. But Pepe Larraz on Peach Momoko's character designs, you got me, son. Like, you got me. Maybe it's the next issue, but is it there?
Yes, next issue.
Yeah, next issue.
We're good.
Right?
Version better, but pretty good.
Well, no, Peach. Yeah, you're 100% right, but like, dog, like, come on, that's so good. Like, if Peach was like, I'm off the book, Pepe Larraz is taking over, I wouldn't be upset. Like, I'd be I'd be sad a little bit, but I would not be upset.
Oh, I don't know. I think I'd be pretty upset, but we don't have to worry about it.
It's all right. It's not gonna happen. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, it'd be cool. Anyway, love this book. Love the story. It's obviously. She's doing her own thing. This isn't a traditional X-Men book, and it just brings tears of joy to me when I hear anyone in the comic book fandom that are upset with this book. Like, this isn't. Why can't it be like the other Ultimate books? And you're just like, shut up. Like, then don't read it, because it's awesome. I don't know. I loved it. I think the story's fun. Diving into, you know, our version of Armor and what she did or didn't do with this boy who clearly took his own life. Like, it's intense. I love it. And the horror aspect is still here. Like, it's subtle, but it's still here. I love it. Let's see here. Ultimate X-Men is good. I think that the best thing about this book is it's different. I think Marvel needs to give artists a chance and break the mold and be different. 100%. Because you know who's not doing that right now? DC. And we'll talk about that.
Let's do it.
All right. Green Lantern, issue number 12. Okay, well, before you boo it.
Oh, sorry. I just was ready.
Just before you boo it. Everything up to essentially the last couple pages of the book, I liked. What's her name? What's the name of his love interest? I don't know her name.
Carol.
Pierce. Carol coming in and being the Star Sapphire, and the world government being like, you can't exist. And like, that to me tells me, all right, so love conquers all. They're most afraid of love out of all the spectrums. Roll your eyes, but I love that. I just love that trope. It's pretty evident because they're like, we blew up your battery. This can't be happening. So like, it's clear that that's going to be the ultimate power that's going to win this conflict. But the reason why we won't find that out for another 2 months is because of absolute power. I know
this was so sloppy, and I do not care that Adams was, even if he was forced to do this, I do not care. So sloppy.
Well, and it just speaks to the lack of direction, even though we have a direction at DC. If that makes sense, right? DC can't allow any other book to just do its own thing. They have to force every book that they're publishing outside of any Otherworld or DC Black Label book into absolute power as an event. And I heard, I think it was Rockin' Robbie who did a roundup of like things to come in comics, and he I think he either read or he saw the previews for a Absolute Power tie-in that deals with John. Right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. And like, I knew your ears were going to perk up, right? And he basically said like, oh, it's a one-shot, so he's not getting his own book, but at least he gets to have some limelight in the event. And like, when he said that, I was like, well, that's bullshit. Okay, here's your John book. You wanted your John book, but we're only going to get one. And I know we're not talking about Green Lantern anymore, but it's because it's spiraling out of this. He basically said that he read the first issue of Absolute Power. He may have read the first two. And he's like, Dan Mora, amazing artwork. But Mark Waid, like, it's definitely, like, he's definitely doing something and he's establishing something. The pacing might be a little off. And all that tells me is that DC has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because again, you have John Kent. You have no confidence in your books that you have to pigeonhole every single one of them into an event. And it happened last summer with Night Terrors. And now we're doing it with Absolute Power. I don't care if Absolute Power, I don't care if Mark Waid is crafting an amazing story. I like Mark Waid. I like the stories that he writes. I think they're great. But to force your entire readership Which John? It's the John that most recently had is
Kent.
it John Kent?
Kent.
Yeah.
Kent.
I don't know. I just feel like we're gonna cover Absolute Power. I'm gonna pick up the main books, and if Absolute Power is in Green Lantern, if Absolute Power is in Batman, what else am I reading? If Absolute Power is in Wonder Woman, then I will read those tie-ins. I'm not going to read, and I apologize to you guys if you were. I can't do it. I just don't know what DC's doing. And when I talked to Ron at the shop, he wholeheartedly believes that we're going to see a reset because of the lack of direction. I forget who's the head of the publishing of DC. It's someone pretty prominent who's over at Image. What's his name? You know him.
Jim Lee.
Jim Lee. He's still there. But when I talked to Ron, Ron's like, look, he's just a figurehead. Like it's clear that he has no weight in the decision making. And he's like, he basically said they know that the publication of DC Comics is about to jump hands again with some other acquisition or merger over at Discovery, to the point where he's like, that's the reason why you're seeing what you're seeing. The reason why we don't have any clear direction is because there is no direction. There is no one at DC. I mean, that's why we're getting 4 or 5 Elseworld books, the DC Ultimates. And out of those 5, 4 of them are Batman books. Because that's all they know how to do. I don't know, man. I don't know. Joe, main book only for me. I read the new Comic Book Day book, and it barely sold me. Hopefully it's not too gimmicky. I think gimmicky is probably the best way to describe DC at the moment. So, Green Arrow. I'll read a Green Arrow book too. But
That's
again,
those are all the books that are.
That's it. Like
Superman is the only book you're not reading.
I'm not reading Superman.
That's what I'm saying. It's the only book that you're not. It's the only ongoing reading that's tied in. None of the rest of them are.
And I know. Campbell's coming back. He's coming back for the main stint within Ultimate Power or whatever this thing is called. And I'm not doing it.
Superman?
He's coming back. I don't care.
Love him. I don't care.
I don't care. Exactly. There was something else I was going to say, but I'm just so flustered. And I apologize. I truly do. I try to stay positive on this show, but I just feel like we've been so if anyone who's watching live can explain, or if anyone that's watching this as a past episode explain why you're still reading DC. And it's probably because and I know what the question is. You love the characters. You're an established reader. And you're going to, just like we are with Marvel, I get it. And so don't answer that question. I know why you're doing it. And I just want to apologize. I want to apologize for me, and I'll apologize for Nate too. I feel like we try to encompass as many books as we can. But for me, DC for the past year and a half, going on to almost 2 years now, has been unbearable because of this just stubbornness to include every book into your summer event. Whether you like it or not, you're going to figure in. And I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it if what happened in those summer events had any meaning. Can you tell me anything that happened in Night Terrors that has any meaning to what's going on currently at DC? I know Nate's shaking his head. Tell me. If you can tell me in the comments and prove me wrong, great. And then I'll go and read. But I just, outside of a footnote in a book, Night Terrors didn't mean anything. And I can only imagine that Ultimate Power is going to do the same thing. And if I'm proven wrong, great. I hope I am. I really do. Last thing, Joe says, it sucks because Joshua Williamson is a pure fan, and for the office to give him crap and hope he turns it into gold, though. Yeah, I guess I would agree with that, because his for the beginning of his Superman run, both me and Nate were like, "Yo, this is fire," and then it just turned, straight up turned. So, all right, I I say it every week now, since I hate to end maybe we need to move DC at the front. Maybe we need to move DC at the front, or maybe it's Independence, DC, Marvel. That's probably what we need to do, because I don't want to end the show. It feels like we end the show every week because DC just doesn't know what the hell they're doing, so we end on a sour note. I don't like that. So we'll make that change here for this coming week. But anyway, I don't even know how many DC books we have next week. But I just want to say I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And 5? We have 5 DC books?
Yep. You have 4. I have 5.
Oh god. Anyway, thanks guys. thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys this Tuesday where we'll talk about some new comic books. Apparently we got 5 DC books. Yay. But we got some other good ones. I know we got a She-Hulk book and I cannot wait for that. But we'll catch you guys on Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we'll talk about those books. And then we'll catch you again live this Sunday, where we'll talk about all these books and more. And we'll have a good time, I promise. And we'll move DC into the middle of the rotation. We won't put them at the end. And Joe says the covers for Night Terrors was fire, though. Hey, that's awesome. Something positive about Night Terrors: it saved money by not buying it. Just kidding. Bought the entire damn series.
Oh, no.
Wonder Woman will be the last book standing. Right on. All right, guys.
Right.
We'll catch you guys next weekend. As always, fam, be kind to one another and read more comics. I promise. I mean that. We'll catch you guys later. Later.